Okay, hello and welcome back to my channel. Now, I was going to make a video on the new Bizonte tank, which I have here, but right now I feel is not the best time for a review of it. It won't be very useful for you guys since, I just can't get a proper game out of it because the matchmaker is literally flooded with these tanks at the moment. So I'll leave that to a later date. It is a decent tank, but I'll I'll leave that be for now before I get too carried away, and I'll go back to the tank of the video. So I wanted to show you guys the IS-3-II. Now, in my opinion, this is one of the absolute best tier 9s, tier 9 heavies, tier for tier. Anyway, I've had an absolute blast in the tank so far, so I thought I'd make a video, as I said, and let you guys know about a tank that you guys can get yourselves without having to spend copious amounts of money on the loot boxes to get the Bizonte. So to begin with, you might as well head over to tanks.gg and I'll give you a run-through of the armor. Okay, so here's the armor model of the IS-3-II. Tier for tier, I think it is a much better armor-wise compared to the IS-3 and tier 8. So head on, you got about 240-ish, frontally just normal how it is pre-angled, and towards the edges we get about 260. Now the normal IS-3 only gets about 180mm effective on its upper plate here, if it's head on, but you also don't have any gun depression on the IS-3. I mean, you have some, but it's not a lot. On the IS-3-II, on the other hand, you have -8, which is awesome for ridge lines, and also you can use it to work your armor nicely. As you can see, it goes up quite nicely. Now, heat from tier 10s, anything, they're all about 330, 340mm of pen. They will go through this. But as long as you're not exposing too much, you should be alright. The front of the turret on this tank isn't the best, but it does work. As you can see, against standard rounds, premium rounds, it will get defeated frontally. It is only about 280mm. So anything all the way out to there, if someone's spamming heat, you will get penned through the turret. But once you fire, just start wiggling your gun, and maybe you can catch some shots that they attempt to put into you. Lower plate is actually not bad. Against tier 8, you're going to have a pretty good time. They will bounce off it. Side scraping is, while it is a pike nose and it's not really that fun to side scrape with, it isn't that bad. So about here is about the perfect angle for you to be side scraping at if you're going to do it frontally. And you're only going to be exposing a small wee sliver of your front hull, and the small bit that you expose is going to be about 230mm worth of armor there, which you will get some bounces off, especially if you're in a top tier matchup. But as long as you're poking in and out, they're going to have a very hard time hitting that. Reverse side scraping, I don't really do this because it really, I always find myself over angling if I'm side scraping, reverse side scraping, but it does work relatively decently on this tank. So if you're a player that likes to do that, go ahead. It's, whatever floats your boat. The gun on this tank is something which I think balance-wise is actually perfect in the game. For tier 9, it's bang on average. Well, what I would consider average. It is only 243mm of pen, but that does place it bang in between the average pens of, say, the tier 8s and the tier 10s. Tier 8, you can average about 210mm of pen depending on the tank, and in tier 10 it's what, 260, they all seem to float around. So, perfect tier 9 gun. It does lag behind a bit when it comes to the premium rounds, 292mm, which isn't bad at all. But with tier 9 being such a diverse tier, you know, you got some tanks which are sporting basically tier 10 guns with a longer reload, or other ones which are like buff tier 8 guns, like on the Object 430 for example. But anyway, I just think it's a nice gun. It does have its gun handling is surprisingly good, and I'll tell you more about that when I show you what modules I put on the tank. So back to the garage. Okay, so I just want to make a quick correction of myself there. The gun handling is below average. It's not terrible, but if you look at my modules here, I have done everything I can to improve the aim time, because I wasn't having I was just getting a bit, you know, bored of the long wait time when it comes to aiming. It's not bad, 2.4 seconds. You know, I mean, it's better than my 60 TP, which I don't consider bad by any rate when it comes to its gun handling. But it's just something to keep in mind. And you know, it improves everything. So yeah, for my ammunition loadout, again, I like to keep my average. You know, this tank does carry a lot of rounds, so you do have quite a bit of freedom. I've got 13 high explosives simply because I honestly don't feel like I'm ever going to use all of this. But 36 armor piercing, standard rounds, and 25 gold rounds as well. Now, with these double-barreled tanks, they rack up damage very easily. It's always a good idea to keep, you know, your 2 rounds loaded, and you can just play like a normal tank, but having that second round there, you know, it's like, I believe it's 4 seconds? 5 seconds. Yeah, so you have a second round, which if you need to fire, you can, and then you don't miss out on some of the damage that you would have gotten otherwise, you know, in another tank. Obviously, the main attraction of these double-barreled tanks is you get that, you know, you can fire both at the same time, which is awesome, and I'll be able to use it in the video. The clip I'm going to show you is actually a really good game, but it's also a bit of a mistake on my part. I'll point out where exactly the mistake happens, and hopefully they will help you in your games. Okay, so we're on the map Pilton, and we have an absolutely fantastic matchup, tier 7 and a tier 9 tank. Now, we're going to make the usual play for a heavy tank, and we'll make our way over into these buildings here. I'm going to go to this side first and see what we can do, and then I'll be back around and start working this side as well. Now, the IS-3-II has fantastic mobility for a heavy tank, especially one with the amount of armour that it has. So, you know, we'll get around the battlefield quite easily. Now, right at the start, it looks like we've got quite a big force heading to the east of the map. You know, that probably means that we're not going to lose that side, but we'll just have to wait and see for later in the game to see if that's actually true or not, because you know how world of tanks can be sometimes. So we have a Bizonte coming with us. I don't believe they come into the warehouse with us, which honestly I don't mind when it happens. It gives me the freedom to move around and do what I want here. We get hull down, and now it's just a waiting game. As you can see, we even beat the enemy Bizontes here, and the Bizonte is by no means a slow tank. One thing to point out with the Bizontes is that they have very bad hull armor. As you can see, that was like a full-on angle there, and we can just, you know, put around them. Now, I probably should have waited for my round to load, and I could have put in a double shot into that T25. But what's done is done, and we'll just have to keep working on that. It's an issue that I have. I'm not very good with autoloaders at the moment, but I do my best. So we're getting a bit bored over this side. I doubt these Bizantes are going to show themselves, so I'm going to come out this side. A KV-3 has shown itself. Now this is a golden opportunity in my eyes to, you know, fire a double shot. So I decided to shoot at the back of his tank in the hopes of getting a fire and taking out his engine. So we definitely took out the tracks. We probably did damage to his fuel tanks, or maybe his engine, probably the fuel tanks. So I'm just going to keep firing as a normal tank to finish off this KV-3. The Bizantes are pushing up on us, but I want to get rid of this KV-3. Even though he doesn't really stand a chance of penning me with that gun, I do just want to get him out of the game so we can focus on these Bizantes. Next gun loaded. As you can see, this tank doesn't have an issue at all, even when you're just firing like a normal tank. DPM wise. Now right here I'm going to shoot these Bizantes through the track, following on from my last video. If you have the opportunity to shoot someone through their track and also do damage, take it. If you don't, just take the damage, because why not? It does get rid of their repair kit, and it's just an advantage to your team. Now, this T10, I'm going to wait for him to fire, and then I'm going to go over and start challenging him. And D4, you can see a T95 is currently harassing our Bizante. I do see that at this point, but I need to get rid of this T10 and T25. T10 is backing up, so I feel fairly confident poking and putting a shot into him as he does so. We have our WC is playing pretty aggressively with us, which is nice. Their tank has surprisingly good armor, so, you know, I welcome the support. We put a double shot in there, but I make the mistake of not aiming at the, full on at the front of his tank, so my left shell just bounces off his side. That's one thing you have to keep in mind with two barrels. You have to make sure both of them are clear of any obstacles, or they're, they're both going to pen. You just got to imagine the two penetrations of where you're going to shoot. Now we're not quite, actually no, pretty soon I'm going to make my first mistake. So this Super Hellcat right here, I should have put a double shot into him, which I won't do. And that could have taken him out of the game, at least mostly. He does take some damage at some point, and we wouldn't have to deal with him later on, as he's going to be an issue. Instead I decided to put a double shot into this T95, who will then start turning around. There is a J-Panther there, but I'm not loaded in time to actually put a shot into him. And that Super Hellcat is now safe. On our right, there is an SG-130 you may see, so I'm going to turn and face him. Actually, a very dangerous tank. Again, I don't wait for that shot to load, but what can you do? Now I see the SU is waiting to poke out. See his movements on the map are telling me that. So I wait till I'm unspotted and I act like I'm, confused. And then I just wait for him to poke out again. There he comes, so I can finish him off. Now, we have an E75 and a Diesel who are currently trying to, get some shots into me, my Bizante, and our WZ. The J-Panther will come up to the south of us pretty soon. Now, what I really should have done here, I went for a double shot, but I decided to finish with the a single instead because I didn't have time. Finishing off this G-Saw was okay, but what I should have done from here is gone and chased down that J-Panther. Because, as you'll see, I'm going to get stuck inside this building and I just can't finish off the game like that. We actually had a very good chance at carrying this entire game. Which we still attempt, but, in retrospect, I now know what I should have done. So we start putting shots into the C-75. In my opinion, he's one of the more dangerous tanks alive at the moment. Our Tortoise is still coming. I decided to put my second shot into the E-75 so I can load and finish him off as my next. Now that Super Hellcat's being aggressive and trying to take out a WZ. Sadly, I don't think our WZ manages to put any shots into him. no, he just gets finished off with the E-75. I ignore the super Hellcat and finish off the more dangerous tier 9 tank. And I made the mistake of pulling out and chasing after the super Hellcat. I hide behind this corpse just to shield myself from the tortoise. But and he still manages to get a shot into me as I go. Okay, at this point I'm realizing I have to start getting rid of tanks, so I double shot this super Hellcat, so he's gone in an instant. And now we're in a situation which I could have completely avoided if I just chased down that J-Panzer. Putting distance between you and your opponents is something that's really important. So I attempt to shoot the tortoise just to get a bit of damage. I know I'm dead here, but RNG kicks in and it's just a big oof. And we get finished off by the tanks to the left. So it's just small things like that which can be avoided by simply making a decision to run away and deal with the, just a tank out of the way, because this game was perfectly winnable in my eyes. We had managed to save most of our health at the end of the game, and it's, I think you guys get the idea at this point. I'm just carrying on. Anyway, I'll show you guys the end plates, and that'll be the video for today. Okay, so here's our end plates. We got a mastery. I can't imagine not getting a mastery in a tier 9 with a game like that. Cruiser, duelist, fighter, fire for effect. Again, always aim for that achievement. At least do your own health worse than damage. Just helps your team out a bunch. And we got a high caliber for that, which was nice. Now, we can't actually see what I did to that KV-3, but I'm going to guess that it was the fuel tanks that I hit on him. If you go to the team score, top of the team, obviously, 954, what's it called? Experience. And top on damage, obviously. I thought it did pretty well. He was a 2 mark, so you can expect that from him. So did that E-75. But looking at here, damage, there we go. But yeah, the Super Hellcats are actually doing pretty well. I mean, at least compared to the rest of their team. And again, we can't say much more about their own team, as all of my replays seem to be like this so far, but who knows, they may change one day. In a detailed report, we actually gained some decent amount of money, 60,000 credits, which is nice. I mean, I don't really fire premium rounds unless I actually need to, and there was no point in that game where I felt that I needed to use them, even against that tortoise. If I fired a premium round into the same spot, it would have only done crit damage like it did there. It's just one of those things. Anyway, I hope you enjoyed, and I hope you learned something from this battle, and I'll see you in the next video.